You know what that is? Simply lovely.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to a Simply Lovely podcast. My name is Corbin. Joined with me today is Caleb, of course. What's going on, dude?
Bro, qualifying. This is a little bonus episode. Championship finale weekend. I had to whip it out. And I'm not changing up, all right? I'm still pulling for Lando, but it was such a good lap. I had to bust the Max Verstappen hoodie back out, dude.
I also
Just-
have the...
I'm sure we'll get into it. We're just going to talk about qualifying today, but dude, Max with an absolute career lap there. You know, he was going to need pole probably to make it any level of realistic, and, you know, I think he did it. And he's going to have a very good chance, especially with, you know, who's sitting in P4 right behind those
Osama bin
McLarens,
Russell, Big Russ.
ready to cause some chaos. So,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can get into it, but Corbin, how are you feeling about qualifying today? How are you feeling about it?
I think that the big key player, of course, which we'll get into later, we'll end up talking about Yuki, because whenever Red Bull needed him most, he did step up, and he got into Q3.
Well, hold on. It was kind of looking like that, and then Max started taking it personally when people were talking about he needed Yuki to get that pole lap, and just decided to crank out an even better lap without any assistance from anyone. So
That is true, but
a little unfortunate that happened, but
but but it was cool.
I will
to
say-
see Yuki lock in.
Yeah, and I will say about that, though, Red Bull kind of screwed themselves. I don't know that he would have got better in P10, but they didn't. He only ran one lap in the end. Or
Yeah,
did he even run a lap in the end?
I don't know.
Because they were there they wanted to have him help Max, and then he didn't even run a lap. So now he's starting P10. So maybe it would have been a long shot that he could even get up there to P4, P5,
but maybe
where
if he
the
got-
McLarens are at.
But like a P7, like you never know what's gonna happen first lap. Maybe he makes a few moves and then he's right behind
if
the
he can
McLarens.
get himself positioned up a couple laps, he will definitely put himself in a good position, because obviously it's not going to be about him passing them on track. Maybe that's the ultimate goal, but it's about, can he slow them up after they pit stop, after they take pits, after they
Yuki's gonna end up
'cause
running long.
they need
and he's gonna be
Yeah,
they're
they
gonna try to
need to
put him out in
push
front.
Lando down 2 spots. They need to get Lando down 2 spots by any means necessary. Yuki might have to
Bum,
you never
bum,
know.
bum,
We'll just leave it at that. I'm just saying. I rewatched the F1 movie last night, and might see a little bit of Plan C from Yuki. is all
Plan
I'm
C might be
saying.
in play, bro. We honestly don't know.
All right. Do you want to start down with Q1 here, with what exactly happened? Just to recap all of qualifying. I think first of all,
Right.
at Q1, let's just say Adrian Newey, we're all good. Ferrari is here, and so is Alpine. We don't need.
We're the other
You
Cavaliers.
can stay if you want, but you can stay if you want, but we're all good.
Yeah.
Look, okay, Alpine, P19, P20, not much of a shock, let's be
Yeah.
honest. But dude,
Shocker.
3 weekends in a row, Ferrari. It's time to retire whoever designed this car.
Yeah.
Let's hang it up. Let's go live in the Italian countryside. We don't need you anymore in F1, because you're making a 7-time world champion driver look like he's never sat behind even a Honda Accord before.
Real. Yeah,
like,
y'all ever seen Rush? Yeah,
just
you know the scene
embarrassing
from
at this
Rush?
point.
That's what's happening right now. It's a
It's a
shitbox.
Ferrari.
You can't say that. It's a Ferrari. It's a shitbox. It drives like a pig.
Yeah.
That's literally what's going on right now.
Yeah,
Borderline insane. from
I'm not
Ferrari.
I'm not like a Ferrari. I'm not a Ferrari fan. I'm not a Lewis Hamilton fan. It just pisses me off that a team that's supposed to have this much prestige and has this much historical relevance
Greatness,
is this
yeah.
bad with a car.
It's genuine. It's insane.
It's embarrassing.
It's like
It's
Mc-
the
like-
brand of Formula 1.
yeah,
And
mhm, for sure. I think like McLaren's like faults and whatever that they've had this year is embarrassing. If they lose the title, it's embarrassing. But we got to look at Ferrari throughout the season. Like absolute embarrassment. 7-time world champion, like not getting out of Q1 for 3 weekends in a row, and a few other times throughout the throughout the season. That just doesn't happen unless you give them a crap car.
We've come a long way since Lewis Hamilton won that sprint in China.
Yeah. Let's
And
not
unfortunately, that
forget.
long way was the opposite direction. Yeah, dude. Just like I know we said during the weekend preview of like, oh, Red Bull really screwed Max by when they designed the car. At least Max can put this car in a position to win the race, dude. Like Lewis Hamilton can't do that. And it's not maybe part of it's his fault because you do see Leclerc up here in P5. In fairness, Leclerc's been dealing with these Ferraris for a while, so maybe there is something about the design that he's just more used to being able to deal with.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, there's no world in which Lewis Hamilton should be getting out in Q1 multiple weekends in a row. If it had been one weekend, I'd be more like, okay, it's probably Lewis. The fact that it's just consistently happening leans me more to think this is way more on Ferrari than it is on Lewis.
Yes, 100%. I don't know.
Did you see his interview? His little
No, I did not.
Yeah, dude, it was hard to watch. The lady asked him a couple questions. He didn't even say anything. He just nodded.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he's been doing. He's low-key been doing the Lance Stroll strategy where they ask him, Lance, how's the car? Bad. What are you gonna do to fix it? I don't know. All right, that's all the time I got. And then he just leaves. I want to go play tennis, Dad, but you won't let me. It's very sad.
Man. I do hope Ferrari can at least somewhat figure it out for 26. They clearly have abandoned this car, so maybe that'll point to a better sign for 2026. Because they do have a very strong driver lineup. That'd be fun to watch them two fight it out for a title. And as much as I know you're not a big Lewis Hamilton guy, it would be fun to see him get his 8th title before he retired and not just retire on a complete whimper.
Listen, I want him to be competitive again before he retires, but I don't want him to win an 8th title because I don't want to see every Instagram comment section go,
You mean 9th?
9th title for him. 9th title. 9th title. That actually should be his 7th because he shouldn't have won the one way back win against Felipe.
Nah, because if you're taking that, then you'd have to.
I know. That's just
we can
that's how you
confidently
rage
say
bait.
7.
You can confidently say 7, but you could rage bait and be like, "Oh, you mean this
6
is a 7?
titles?
Yes. You mean 5 titles? No,
Yeah,
dude, people
overall,
get so mad.
Nico, not his best weekend. He was at the top of Q1 after the first lap went through. Just saying, Kick Sauber, might be the GOAT there in Audi next year. But yeah, dude, look, I mean, this is embarrassing for Alpine as well. I mean, Renault is another team with some historical relevance, and even just bro, like I said, watch the F1 movie last night during that montage, which was like one of my favorite parts of the movie. The montage with the Lose Your Mind playing, bro. Pierre was on the podium at a couple races during that span.
Yeah,
that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, he was on the Zandvoort podium and on the Zandvoort podium. And there was one other one. Actually, no, I think it was just Zandvoort.
You know what engine they had? They had a Renault engine then.
They still have the Renault engine.
Yeah, but this one sucks.
It's always sucked. The problem is now it's like their aero was stable enough to be like very okay. The problem now is that the aero is dog ass, and at the same time the engine sucks. even worse than it did earlier. So the car is horrible. What a disappointing season for Alpine. It doesn't shock me because once they signed Flavio, I was like, he's going to be pushing for 2026. There's no way. Because it's not like they're going to make massive strides.
It makes sense, too.
Season.
There was no reason to.
Yeah, exactly.
But I will say, dude, 2022, remember, they were in the fight with McLaren for P4, and like P5 in constructors. And then 2023 rolls around. Alpine had a much better car to start the year, and McLaren was where Alpine is currently. And then all of a sudden, 2 years after that, Alpine is the most embarrassing team on the grid. Technically, I would actually still say Ferrari is the most embarrassing just because of what they should be. But Alpine is so embarrassing that I don't even think they can be considered the most embarrassing anymore. And McLaren has won the Constructors' title and could easily win the Drivers' Championship. So just a pure disaster so far for Alpine. And hopefully, for their sake, the Renault engine is better. And honestly,
Well, I
maybe
mean,
let's just not come out on the track tomorrow.
yeah, they're gonna get the Mercedes engine next year, of course. So that's definitely gonna help them because we all know how the Mercedes engine has been cooking lately. Let's just go ahead and look at the customer team, McLaren. Let's go ahead and look at the actual Mercedes. They're
Look at the
cooking.
top six. Look at the
Yeah,
top six. That's 4 Mercedes engines.
yeah. So, um, just take a look at that. So they'll be better then, and they've literally dumped almost zero money into the cars this year. So everything's been put towards next year's car. So hopefully they come out and they're at least competitive. Just because of course, I want to see Pierre like fighting in the top 10 at least, scoring points. But if they could just like, they don't got to win every single race. I'm not saying that, but if they can like steal a podium here and there, I'd love that. Now, if he came out winning all the
let's just
races, I
say
wouldn't
you've
be
been
too mad.
watching. You've been watching for a year or two longer than me, and I came in Lando Norris fan. All of a sudden, he wins his first race, and now he's on the precipice of a potential world title. Meanwhile, for Pierre, hasn't won a race really since you started overly watching.
Yeah,
Were you watching when he won that race in
yeah,
the AlphaTauri?
yeah.
So you saw that one, and then and
I
since
well
then it's like a couple
basically
podiums
I
in a
I
4 or 5 year span.
I started watching and I was like, yo, this AlphaTauri car is tough. And then I was watching that season. I was like, this Pierre dude's pretty cool. And then he wins the race. I was like, yo, this is tough. He's my guy. It's been all downhill from there, bro. You literally just have to like
No,
now.
don't let me.
No, yeah, bro, no, that's
Pick
literally
Max,
me.
Corbin, pick Max.
But no, if we're being for real, it is kind of cool. Like this is me with like every sport. I don't usually like picking the people who just like kill everybody because it is fun to see them just like kind of grow, which sounds cheesy as
Yeah.
hell. But
It's
just like seeing him fight for like if he gets snags like a point this season, I was always like, oh yeah, baby, we got P10. Like, you know what I'm saying? He gets into
I
Q3,
was
I'm like, hey, Q3, bless up. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you
well,
can
the
still make the
first
best out of
season
it.
I was watching. First season I was watching all the way through. My guy was P19 at the first race of the year on pure pace of the car alone. It wasn't like there were any mistakes being made or
Right.
anything. There were 6 pit stops and he was P19, and it's way more rewarding to watch Lando since then than that he started, for me when I was watching. And I always did like Max a little bit. First couple races I watched, I was like, I just know this Max guy wins every race. I'm kind of not in on that. And then,
Mm-hmm.
as like kind of get Stockholm syndromed into it in 2023, it was like it
Yeah.
was like, you know what, this Max guy is not so bad.
Bro,
So
Max just has like the best personality. If we're being so honest, I think he's so funny. So
he's just too
he,
funny, bro.
he's
I
always been
love
one of my
that
favorites.
part in the F1 movie where they they understood how the F1 fans would view Max when they made that little tiny bit in the F1 movie at Monza where he just goes, "That was naughty," and then
And then he flips
they
him
had
off.
Sonny Hayes just like, and Sonny Hayes like, "This guy's good," and then he flips him off when he drives by. They definitely knew how the F1 fans would view Max, and that they pretty much captured it perfectly for a pretty flawless cameo there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was probably my favorite cameo in the movie because it's the most accurate.
I like Fernando's better, where
Fernando's is
Sonny was pulling some old head strats, and Fernando's like,
yeah, that one's
Fernando's
pretty
like,
good
good
too.
stuff there, Unc.
And also the shout to Carlos Sainz just being like the hottest dude on the grid, arguably, top 3 for sure. That's funny. What?
All right, buddy.
What?
Yeah, no.
Bro, dude, I can't give a shout to my boy Carlos. Dude's a good looking guy.
All right, into Q2. So we see here Lance Stroll, who actually had a pretty decent Q1 from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Kimi Antonelli, who was looking good, but just kind of lost his rear at the end of his lap. Liam Lawson, who had a little crash out moment in Q1, I believe. Carlos Sainz in that Williams outpaced his teammate by quite a bit. And Ollie Behrman, who was absolutely flying in Q1, was not quite able to pull it off in Q2 by about that much space, did not make it into Q3.
Yeah, literally like 7 thousandths of a second or just something insane like that. So sucks to
No,
see
I wasn't
Ollie
even saying
not
the
make it.
time. I was saying literally this much space from Yuki
Oh
not
yeah,
going off track.
from Yuki not going off track. Yeah. That's another. We were gonna try and find the picture for you guys. Oh, actually watching, but the problem is it's just not out yet. So
because we literally ended and we were like, all right, let's hop on and get this recorded. So, I'm sure you've seen it. It basically looks like he's off, but he managed to keep his front left on barely. That's probably the most notable thing in Q2, other than it was what Piastri was absolutely flying and Lando was a little distant, but managed to keep it on track. And then right at the end, we also saw our boy Big Russ absolutely about to destroy a wall, and that was a little foreshadowing for what was to come. But
Yeah.
Big Russ was absolutely flying around this track. He wants to win this race. Uh, and yeah, I mean, any thoughts on Q2 other than those big, or even about those two big points?
Just the biggest standout for me, of course, is Ollie. Like, I really thought Ollie was going to get a Q3, especially over Esteban, because he's definitely outperformed him throughout all of qualifying. And then all of a sudden, Esteban puts in a great lap, and Ollie comes up a bit short. So that was a little shocking. And also Antonelli. Antonelli looked good all weekend, and then, kind of just had a slip up. He said his tires weren't
You remember he didn't have
cooperating.
titanium dioxide.
No titanium dioxide. That's why I qualified P14. These are the things you got to think about.
You just
But yeah,
remembered.
that's pretty much all I've taken away pretty much from Q2, but still good.
Yeah,
Q3
Q2
is
is
where
always
it's
the
at
most
though.
irrelevant session in my opinion with
Yeah,
qualifying. That's always the one where I kind of zone out a little bit because Q1 you're just getting into it. You're like, let's go qualifying, here we go, and then like Q2 and you're kind of zoned out. You might have actually scrolled Instagram a little too long during the break, and then all of a sudden you're back to Q3. And it's like who's gonna get pole? So this one was actually pretty interesting with Yuki, who had a phenomenal middle sector, and the reason being because he gets all of the advantage of basically I don't know what turn that is. I can't remember. It's the same turn Sonny Hayes crashed and got the red flag in the F1 movie, but it was where he goes wide in that corner and you get such a better exit on that turn into the next turn if you can go wide. That's why that is such a strict track limits and where you see most of the times get deleted. We saw it with Franco a couple times. Gasly went wide there
at turn 1.
because is it turn 1?
Yeah, it's turn 1.
Yeah. Either way, um, that's the spot you see most of those track limits come in, just because it is such a much bigger advantage. So he had a fast Q1 that led into that rapid Q2, because he just does you get that advantage, but he managed to somehow keep it on track. Is basically the optimal line to race Abu Dhabi if it was easily repeatable, because it
Right.
was genuinely this much space that he kept it on track. Like it was like the tire technically might have been off, but the little bit that sticks out was still over the
Was still
line.
over the line. Yeah. It was literally
Yeah.
millimeters. I
I mean, it
mean,
was
genuinely so close.
exactly.
So,
It was the fastest second sector on track. He had a very slow third sector comparatively and almost didn't make it out of Q2, but it was the fastest sector of Q2, at least or the fastest middle sector of Q2. And
first
I don't
sector.
know if Max managed to beat it with Q3. It was the second that he went purple by a huge margin.
Well then where would he have picked up the advantage, because that's turn 1? I
I
honestly
think it
I
was. I
don't
think it was the
remember.
exit of that turn. I think it's the exit that turn leading into second sector.
I guess he carries the speed all the way down into turn, oh gosh, 4. Yeah, it's 4, I think. The 4 is the big long.
I'd have to look at where the sectors break off, but that's the only reason I would think. And I'm sure it was also he probably just found a great braking zone or something that he managed
Yeah, who
to
knows?
pick up. But
Yeah, but anyway, shout out Yuki for getting, getting into Q3. That was probably the biggest thing, just to help out Max, which we've kind of touched on earlier, but along with that, I do want to throw out, if we're
yeah,
talking about
okay, hold on.
Q3,
I just
what'd you find it?
so basically just a reminder where the sector lays out is sector 2 begins after turn 4, which is a very it's that high speed you come over.
Okay.
So you go wide at Q1, you carry that speed into Q2, and around that wide or not Q2, turn 1, you carry that speed into turn 2, 3, and 4, which leads you down to that hairpin in turn 5.
Okay. That makes sense.
So whether that was actually where he picked it up, it is far more possible though that was the in my like just looking at the layout of where those sectors end. That is also just that's the main that's the two straights, and maybe he found something at turn 6 and turn P7 to actually overcome that space as well. I don't know. I'd have to, you'd have to actually probably look at his onboard compared to other drivers to see where exactly he finds that speed. But it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't shock me if that was the area he picked it up. But he does manage to get into Q3, which looked like it was going to be super important for Max. And then Max took it personally that people were saying it was going to be important. And Hajar also got into Q3, which is not a shock. I believe he is the best qualifier that isn't in the top 4 team this year.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and yeah, just a great overall run from him. Also, somehow sneaking in, I didn't even realize Gabby Bortoletto managed to get in there
Yeah, he
as
put in
well.
a
So,
banger first
that was
lap, goes up to like P4, and then of course drops down a little bit once everybody else came through. But great lap because he was one of the early people to go out. So good job to him for getting P7, and then right in front of him, along with
and
that, is Fernando Alonso. How about that? Quick from the wily old
also
fox.
Leclerc got through and said on the radio, wow, that was surprising when they told him he got into Q3. So
Yeah.
just more examples of Ferrari being an absolute disaster. And so yeah, then we get to Q3. This was the big one. By the way, this whole time Lando was definitely not looking super confident in his car. Might have had some extra nerves he was driving with. He was always the furthest behind Piastri and Norris. He was always at least third out of those,
Mm-hmm.
but turned it around here in Q3 with the best human lap because I don't think Max's laps were human. And
No, straight
here's
robot.
the Q3 times. Look at this, dude. 2 tenths separating Max and Lando. Max qualified P1 and P2 in this
Yeah.
in this qualifying session. The first one, so Red Bull doing the smart thing, sending Yuki out first, saying make sure to give him a tow, and Yuki does a great job giving Max a tow. And I kind of texted Corbin up in the middle of that, like Yuki might be that guy if this is how Max ends up winning the title, because that was basically, I mean, it was a pole position lap, and I was like, it's gonna be hard to beat that lap. Obviously, Max is gonna go out and give it a try because those McLarens are still rapid, and
Mm-hmm.
then without a toe goes out and sets an even better lap. It was like purple. Okay, but he won't go purple. Oh, purple. Okay, but he won't go purple again. Oh, purple.
Purple. Yeah. Yeah, which kind of shocks me because I feel like the toe is such an advantage going down into 4, which is I think going into 4 or coming out of 4.
He was
I think coming out of 4 is wherever he gave him the toe, and like I feel like just getting that extra tenth there is just so big because most of sector 2 is just that straightaway, and then of course
I
6 and
I
7.
could be wrong. I'm assuming it was after the hairpin into turn 6.
Is
Because
it
that's where you get DRS, and so he would have DRS
you
and a
get you
toe
get
down
DRS
into those
you get
really slow
DRS out of
corners.
4 as well, and I think that's the longest
That's
straightaway
the
on the
detection
track.
zone. The Out of
No,
4 is the detection zone into the hairpin at turn 5.
gosh, I need to pull up the track, but I think we're saying the
I
same
I can I
thing.
can I can I got you. I got you. Hold on.
We
Hold on.
we
I
are
don't
yeah.
know. You're saying the wrong corner here, but I think you're talking about the right area of the track. Here is the track. Just a reminder.
Ah, yes.
So
No.
here, turn 4 is
That's
just, it's
yes.
such a
I thought
small
I
little
thought
thing
4
here.
was where
Turn
5
5's the
was.
hairpin.
I forgot if
Yeah,
the
turn
track
5's the
breaks like
hairpin
that, it's counted as a
into
turn. Yes. We were talking about
yeah,
the same thing.
into
I just had the corner
this
messed up.
DRS area.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
5 down
but
into 6
this
is
is
where
where
he
you
got
get
the
on the toe. So
toe.
he has, and Yuki did a good job getting out of the way. I will say, we say there was no toe. He was chasing behind the McLarens during his last lap, so that probably helped him a little bit. They
Mhm.
punched through the air a touch coming down again these longer straights. But Yuki's was specifically there to give him a great toe. And it was kind of like, wow, what a great help from his teammate. And then Max was like, I haven't needed a teammate before. I'm not gonna need one now, and set an
Yeah.
even better lap.
Which which is kind of weird because they didn't send out Yuki to actually like set a lap um which which I think we talked about earlier.
I mean, I get why. Yeah, I
I get
get why you want him. You don't need Yuki for anything other than to help Max in qualifying. And then what we said about, he's kind of just going to be there to hold up the McLaren. So as long as they can keep that field somewhat bunched up and Yuki can get ahead of them after a pit stop,
Mhm.
you know, that'll be the assistance that he really was ever going to provide. It was never going to be like, he's up there just battling it out with the McLaren, slowing them down. Who knows, maybe, but based off of all of the available evidence, it never seemed like that was going to be the thing.
Right. But yeah, no, absolutely insane qualifying session. Of course, Max getting Q1. How about it? And I mean, that honestly sets him up great for tomorrow because turn one always gets a little bit crazy here at Abu Dhabi, the Yas Marina Circuit. So if he can just get out in front and not tangle up with anybody behind him, I think that's probably the most important part. If we do want to check out here in P4, this is what we were referencing earlier. Big
What
Russ,
I said.
Osama
What
bin
I
Russell
said.
down here in turn four. The McLarens might be in trouble, if we're being so honest. So
So
Max needs to
first
get
off, got to call
away
it a little
from.
big brain moment. Got to call it a little big brain moment. George Russell coming into the pit said, "Make sure I'm behind Verstappen on his outlap, so because he'll give me a tow." So he knows that Max would rather have him somehow, even though Max might also be thinking he might Osama bin Russell me into the wall going into turn
Right.
one. But just realistically speaking, he knows it'd be better if Russell's up there. You know, as much as Yuki did help him out, Russell is almost his proverbial teammate for this title fight because Russell's going to have the pace, and
Yeah.
Russell's an aggressive driver who can really push those McLarens down the
Down the
track. So
order.
enemies enemies turn lovers type story.
Yeah, bro. Drive to Survive gonna have a field day with this one.
Well, no, they won't because Max doesn't do it, so they can't even do anything about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, they wouldn't interview him, but they do cover Max a little bit. So, well, but they're not going to do that
Kind
because we're
of,
going to
but
have
they
eight
well the
eight
problem
Alpine
is
episodes.
Well, I think there'll be a lot about McLaren. That's gonna help Drive to Survive. The biggest problem and the reason I feel like the show's been so weird in the last few years is just first, I mean, obviously they're lying straight up, but they've been doing that. But it
Yeah,
was still they did a good job covering the season. The problem was Max was always dominating the season, and Max doesn't do those sit down. And I mean, they've been using the same clapboard clip of Max for like 3 years now.
yeah,
He doesn't do those. But let's not talk about Drive to Survive. They're not gonna cover this with the amount of respect it deserves. Just I mean, I believe Max's tires were a touch fresher than McLaren's. After he did get pole, I was like, that's gonna be pole position for Max. But then I saw in the distance Big Russ, and I was like, hold on, Big Russ. If anyone's gonna steal pole position, it might be Big Russ. And then about snapped into the wall again right at the exit of it, right into the final straight there
right.
across the finish line right out of that turn 16 about obliterated his car into the wall. Same place Max actually did that last year
Mm-hmm.
at Abu Dhabi.
Well, he didn't hit the. Yeah, he had
Yeah.
that huge snap, and we were all like, "Oh!" And then he somehow saved it by going all the way to the right side of the track. Saved it, still put in his
But
banger lap, but
cooked his sector time a little bit,
yeah,
which could be relevant. If he would have been P3, he can make a run at Norris, and all of a sudden Norris is in P3, Piastri's in P4. Because right now, with Piastri being up here, I do think that, we talked about it. That does hurt Max a little bit because McLaren can always just have Piastri, drop back a spot if they need.
right.
Um, but this is best case scenario for Max, just because, like I was saying, and we were talking about with our preview, the second someone else gets into the lead, it becomes almost impossible for Max to win this title
Yeah. That's why he needs to get out in front. And
because Norris
George
can
George
just
being behind the
finish further
McLarens,
back.
if it's gonna be Vernopia Vernor for the top three, Big Russ being P4 is best case scenario because he's the number one person that's
What was
gonna.
that? Hold on. I just heard in your mic the DRS trade
The
that
DRS train
that
is
Max might
here.
cause
Yes,
tomorrow going
bro,
around.
that's another thing we haven't talked about, dude. This is the last weekend for the DRS button. R.I.P.
Yeah.
This is so sad. The end of an
So
era.
I guess do we think Max is gonna have the pace to just stay out in front? And even if he does, is the best strategy for Max gonna be to just try to back up the field and cause those McLarens to try to just fight with the drivers try to give the other drivers behind, like literally cause an intentional DRS train?
I think for Max, he just needs to get out just so far ahead, and he kind of just has to hope
I
something
think at the
happens.
start. But, let's say we get to lap 30 or something after the pit stop, and it's kinda like, okay, Lando's still running P2 really strongly. Is the best thing for Max to do to literally, like, slow his pace down and just keep his elbows as wide as possible and just try to force a DRS train to build up so that, you know, Lando does have to deal with pressure behind him, or Lando could keep attempting some overtakes on Max and just like
Yeah, and eventually
you
he
never
just
know those
crashes.
wide elbows. It it seems like it could be. I do think we will see a scenario tomorrow with Yuki coming out of Yuki not pitting when everyone else does, and he
100%.
will. It's gonna.
I
I think it's really gonna be interesting how
yeah.
much he can hold those McLarens up. I
Mhm.
think most likely we'll see Lando basically mirror whatever Max does. So if Max pits, Lando would be in the pits. Um,
Most likely.
which
I
is
do
just what
think
you would what's smart to do.
right. I think Yuki for sure is going out on hards, and they're going to extend him as long as possible, and he just needs to try and keep the pace up. I don't think they're going to have him like. I mean, you can sit like if you're going to start him on hards, you don't have to focus on really saving tires. You might have to a little bit just so he has some move for defense, but they don't want him to be 20 seconds or 28 seconds whatever behind the McLarens, so they get a free pit stop. They need him to be pushing a lot to make sure he does come out in front of the McLarens. And I think that's going to be the biggest part of this race,
The
honestly.
the biggest part for McLaren is staying on pit schedule with Max.
Yes,
Because
for the
then they should
McLarens,
never
yes.
really be in a scenario where that will hurt them. Well, maybe not for Piastri. So Piastri might have to try to do something more drastic because he's going to be fighting for a title.
Hmm.
But for Lando specifically, Max is the guy you can beat him in the World Championship. Staying on schedule with him, technically Piastri can too, but we talked about it. It's a very long shot for Piastri to win the
Hmm.
title. So for Lando specifically, staying on schedule with Max is going to be what he needs to do. They can't make a mistake or sit there and try to be fair and force like some stupid strategy that's going to end up giving Yuki a spot where he can help Max perform like an undercut or not
Hmm.
even an undercut, but just some chaos could happen that could screw McLaren over. Lando needs to stay on schedule with Max, basically. Stay in P2. If Piastri gets by him into P3, not the end of the world, but it does become far more stressful for Lando dealing with, psycho Big Russ back there in his
Yeah,
rearview mirrors,
absolutely.
who desperately wants to win this race because Big Russ wants to carry all the momentum into 2026 and
Hmm.
just, Big Russ wants to be that diva. He wants to be the guy who wins who wins the race no matter what.
No matter
And
what.
that's good. We don't want drivers, we don't want drivers treating everyone like they're standing on like the thinnest ice ever. We want them to race. It makes the title more interesting if they're actually racing and they're not like, "Oh, I don't want to ruin his chance at a world championship." And Big Russ was never going to be like that. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Big Russ will take out all three of these guys if it means he has a chance to win this race.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I can see is if they extend Yuki, they could actually get Yuki out ahead of like Max and all of them, because if they're all on the same pit schedule, which we're definitely going to see out of the McLarens, I would, like we were just talking about, I think we get Yuki ahead of Max. Yuki, gives Max some DRS, lets him in front, and then he just tries to go elbows out with
To be
Norris right
honest,
behind him.
I think I think the best thing for Red Bull to do is keep Yuki out and pray that they get a red flag. Because if you can get Yuki into P1 and Max pits and manages to get back to P2 and you get a red flag, then he can swap his tires and now you have that guy who can push Lando down to P4 if they need.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you have another variable introduced into the race. That's probably, again, like you said, they'll try to extend his session as long as possible. If Yuki can do it, my guess is we might not see him pit to the last lap of the race.
He might do an
Like
Esteban Ocon,
just
and he might try to kill some photographers. It might happen.
like genuinely just to try, because if Lando is just driving his race, keeps his car on track, stays consistent, he likely will finish Q2 or P2 and P3, P2 or P3. So the best case scenario, Piastri gets around Lando, you don't pit Yuki, somehow you get a red flag, all of a sudden Lando's driving in P4. And then
Hmm.
maybe you will get stuck. You might get screwed by that scenario where Piastri lets him by, but that's what Big Russ is for. Big Russ is going to be
But,
chasing
no,
desperately like a mad,
because
pushing like a madman.
yeah, absolutely. That's what I was about to say. So, yeah, pretty eventful qualifying session, of course.
It,
Um, and yeah, I mean the
I
race
will
tomorrow is
say,
going to be insane.
biggest problem for Max here is after Russell, you have Leclerc who, look, Ferrari's a disaster. Still a top team who could potentially fight McLaren, probably
Top
not.
driver.
But then after that, the issue is you have Alonso, who's not going to have as strong race pace. Bortoletto who's not going to have strong race pace, and Ocon who's not going to have strong race pace really. He just doesn't, like he just doesn't really have. He needed Kimi to have a much better
Hmm.
Kimi and Lewis, to be honest. He needed top teams. Yeah, I'm
He
just
even
saying
needed
that
a
for Ferrari
signs.
because they are technically still Ferrari is technically still the fourth, fastest team out there, constructors wise.
Well,
Maybe not
they're not
pace wise
acting like
anymore.
it.
But yeah. But I'm just saying, he needed as many of those guys into Q3 as possible, just so that because it doesn't it's not gonna assuming Piastri's gonna let Lando by if it'll mean Lando wins the title, it's not going to help him if Piastri gets by Norris. Whereas if it's Big Russ and Big Kim, all of a sudden it's a lot more
Yeah.
doable. So, Zach Brown said we're not gonna we're not gonna choke the drivers' championship. How well is that gonna age? We'll find
Yeah.
out tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we will find out tomorrow morning. Another thing I do want to say quickly before we wrap this up is I think traffic here at Abu Dhabi is going to be a problem to some extent. So if we do see the McLaren boys pit and they do get stuck behind people of the likes of Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon, how nice is the midfield going to play with the McLaren boys and or Max Verstappen?
I'm assuming they'll just race their race. They won't be worried about, if it is going to help them to let the McLarens by, they'll probably do that.
They'll
If
probably
it
just let them
doesn't
by.
benefit them in any way and they can keep the pace, they'll just race their race. I don't see any reason
See, that's what I'm thinking.
anyone
But
will.
But yeah, I do
Anyone
think
who's not on a team, we'll see Yuki
Right.
pull off to the side of the road if it meant Max will win the world title,
Right.
but
park up your car, big dog. You're done.
maybe some V carbs. Maybe some V carbs.
Dude, yeah, we could see an Isaac Hadjar in here too. We don't I mean, dude, they come out behind Liam Lawson. Liam's gonna go elbows out, bro. He's got something to prove. So
Yep.
just the race is gonna be nuts. So I'm excited. 3-person title fight. Never seen one before. So it's gonna get
Our
interesting.
1, 2, 3 after qualifying. So Max on pole was the most interesting possible outcome probably for this title fight being close.
Yep.
Because if he can hold that lead, it's going to be on Lando to not drop out of the podium spot, and it's going to be cinema tomorrow. Max. Is the time up? Is it up?
Yeah.
Guess
it's
we will
his time.
find out if Max Verstappen will be a 5-time world champion or if Lando Norris and maybe even Oscar Piastri. You never know what can happen on a Sunday. Win their first world title. 11th season for Max, 7th season for Lando, 3rd for Oscar. So quite the predicament here. The scenario we found ourselves in at a great track. I will say I love this track in Abu
Yeah.
Dhabi. It's like Qatar if it didn't suck.
Yeah, it's like Qatar if people could actually do overtakes and it was actually interesting and it actually looked cool and it had good scenery.
As far as these Middle Eastern tracks go, probably the second best in my opinion, behind Jeddah.
Yeah, I was about to say Saudi Arabia is definitely number
just
one.
coming in just above Bahrain, mainly for me because the transition from like sun setting to it's a night race is such a banger little area, as well as the pit exit at this track is quite awesome with
going underneath the track
and high speed exit out of the pit.
Super insane, and we've seen some crazy
high
moments.
speed exit out of the exactly because it's like you're racing to that corner, when you do that. So what's gonna happen tomorrow, Corbin? Do you want to change your prediction, or is Max still gonna be a world champion?
I'm gonna say this. I said this on the last episode. If we get a new world champion, I'm gonna be super happy because it's like you always love to see someone get there first. Like watching Max get his first was incredible. That's the only person I've seen because, of course, I started watching and it was Lewis Hamilton, and then Max. So always cool to see someone new win. But if Max happens to claim his 5th, that'd be pretty sick. So I'm not changing my prediction. I predicted it all year. Max Verstappen will be your 2025 Formula One drivers champion. Caleb?
Yep, Lando's giving me no reason to swap out, so I'm sticking with Lando. I will say I do just want to. I'm actually going to look at our podium predictions real quick and see what it's looking like. So, I actually said Oscar will win, which might happen. Max P2, Lando P3. So that's very much on the table still. For you, and this is kind of interesting. You have Max winning. You actually have Leclerc P2, and he is in 5th. So
Leclerc's in the mix. You don't know.
Like cheese. You never know. You did say Kimi disaster, and that qualifying was not not exactly the best as far as disaster goes. I actually said Ferrari disaster, and let's be real, that was basically a gimme. Um, we'll see how the race goes, but that's pretty much a gimme from the start. Um, yeah, dude, it's gonna be interesting tomorrow. I cannot wait. It's gonna be a banger. Maybe it'll suck, but with Max getting pole, I think it makes it that much more potential for a banger. And yeah, that's all I got. Corbin, green, round us out.
Yeah, so I got nothing else. So what I want to do real quick is thank you guys for joining us on a Simply Lovely podcast. All of our links are down below if you want to go check out our individual content. We will be back here tomorrow after the end of the Formula One season. I can't believe I'm saying that. It feels like just went by in a flash, honestly. This season felt so quick.
And at the same time, it feels it didn't go by in a flash because Australia feels like 10 centuries ago.
Dude, Australia does feel like a long time ago, but it's it's a quick it's not a quick season, but for some reason there's just been so much action on, in the title fight, not on track, in the title fight.
This back half went by really fast, I will say.
Yes, after
Since
Zandvoort,
Oscar had that slow run of form and Max started his 104-point comeback, that all flew by so fast.
mm-hmm.
Whereas like everything pre-Zandvoort feels like it was about 20 decades ago. Like I feel like that was forever ago. Like
Yeah, so
yeah, I don't.
pretty
It's been a
insane.
crazy year, so hopefully it ends out strong tomorrow.
Yeah, and of course we're both excited for 2026 to get started because we got the new regulations, new cars, and who knows what can happen. So this has been a great year, but we'll see you guys tomorrow here on a Simply Lovely podcast with your two beautiful hosts, myself, Corbin, and Caleb. So we want to thank you guys. Peace.